Okay, well, governments around the world have suspended flights to and from countries across southern Africa as a result of the detection of this new COVID variant. Joining me now is Dr. Ayoade Alakija, co-chair of the Africa Vaccine Delivery Alliance. Good evening to you. I wonder what you make of what's happening right now and if more vaccines were shared around the world, including countries across Africa, perhaps we wouldn't have so many variants and mutations.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening. It's lovely to be with you. I think there is absolutely no doubt that had we vaccinated the world, vaxxed the world as we call it, urgently and equitably over the last few months, we would not be dealing with the situation we're dealing with now. And so, I mean, this is not a surprise. It is a very sad moment, but not a surprising moment. Omicron is here. And quite frankly, I would say that Omicron is already all over the world. Last week, we saw in Germany about, and several other countries in the European Union, the highest numbers of cases since the pandemic began. Clearly, there was something going on there. The difference between them and Africa, South Africa, is that South Africa has responsibly been and very, very assiduously working on genomic surveillance and have identified this and have declared it. Trust and truth.
And how do you feel as far as trust and truth is concerned in terms of how the reaction has been to South Africa announcing that they've discovered this variant?
Well, there is no global solidarity. I say often that COVID is where global solidarity went to die. South Africa and Botswana, where it was first discovered, have given up this information and they've done an incredible job. And I'm glad that is being recognized. However, if there are punitive measures for those who come forward and say that we have a problem, who are showing us that there are variants, then the likelihood is that when we do have a variant that might be totally out of our control, nobody's going to know about it. Because if you punish with travel, what you're doing is you're shutting down economies. You're working against trade, against the social fabric of those societies. We know scientifically that right now, especially as the virus is in 3 continents already, that is not going to work. The case in Belgium had not been anywhere near southern Africa. It was a young lady who had been to Egypt and via Turkey, but nobody has blocked flights to Egypt or to Turkey. Neither have they blocked flights to Belgium. So we need to ensure that our responses are scientifically driven and not driven by politics.
The Prime Minister, as you know, just held a press conference at Downing Street. One of the questions from the journalists afterwards was about this inequity as far as the flights are concerned, but also about vaccine equity. The Prime Minister announcing that they want to widen the booster jab programme and that perhaps people in South Africa, Botswana, other African nations are actually reluctant to take the vaccine rather than it being about vaccine availability. What do you make of that?
That, to me, was an attempt to rewrite the narrative. It was egregious. I literally sat back when he said that, because I can tell you for a fact, let me take Botswana and give you some details. The first vaccines to Botswana arrived in August, the second week in August. A week before that, I received a call from a very high-ranking Botswanan official, government official, saying, and I quote, "Dr. Alakija, please help us get vaccines before this virus wipes out our 2.4 million population." Botswana, like South Africa, an upper middle income country. They tried to buy vaccines. They tried to buy vaccines from Moderna. They were charged $29 per dose for 500,000 doses. And yet Moderna refused to deliver those vaccines because they were serving high income countries like the UK and others who were ahead of the line and refused to give Africa a chance. So it is now egregious to have Mr. Johnson say that Africans, the supply is not the problem. The United Kingdom government UK government has promised, I forget exactly how many vaccines, over 100 million doses to give to COVAX or bilaterally, and have delivered about 10% of that. Yes, 1.5 billion vaccines were promised were promised through COVAX, but also the high-income countries of the world are not just failing us, they're failing COVAX. They're failing all the low-income countries of the world because they're failing to deliver on what they've said they're going to do. So to attempt to rewrite the narrative is quite frankly quite disappointing, and we will own our own truth and tell our own story. Thankfully, there are databases and there's various ways to clarify that supply indeed is the issue.
So it's not vaccine hesitancy, to be clear, and it's not that you are getting enough, because Prime Minister Boris Johnson was also saying that they've played their part as far as the COVAX programme is concerned.
Look, I know that the Prime Minister is a politician, okay? And he needs to say what his constituents want him to say. The fact is, supply is the issue. I'm sitting today in Nigeria that has vaccinated about 10 point something million people, few out of a total population of 210 million. We have in our cachet at the moment maybe 18 million. The reason the vaccinations are slowed down in Nigeria are because the UK, Canada, and some other countries have been sending about to expire vaccines to Nigeria. So we have had to slow down to meet and roll out those about to expire vaccines whilst parking the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines that have been donated generously by the US government, who quite frankly have been the only ones globally showing true leadership on this issue. The Prime Minister...
Dr. Ayoade Alakija, I'm so sorry, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, for your perspective on what's happening as far as vaccine equity is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.